Council members, it's about 10 minutes after the hour. Do we want to get started with the presentations?
Yes, ma'am.
First up is NOSAP.
All right, good morning, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to brief you as we head into August, into what is traditionally the height of hurricane season here in New Orleans and in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to give you some updates on hurricane preparedness and some of the initiatives and things that we've been working on and projects that have been continuing. With me, I have Austin Feldbaum, who's our Hazard Mitigation Administrator, Emma Skilbred, who is the Director of Communications for the office, and Nola Reddy, and Tom Shrilla, who is our Senior Emergency Manager in the office and our Operations Administrator. You can advance it. You got the, there's the remote right there. I'll take it if you want. Yeah, you can go ahead. All right, go back one. All right, so in the event of a citywide emergency evacuation, should that become necessary for a major storm, that would be when the mayor and the governor declare a mandatory evacuation of the parish and the region. The Smoothie King Center is still our primary parish pickup point. That is where we would have both state and federal assets on standby to meet our residents who are in need of assistance in transportation and getting out of the city. They would be picked up at RTA bus stops around the city, brought to Smoothie King Center, and then moved further north and out of the danger area by state chartered motor coach buses, aviation, and Amtrak as well. On the return, we're not on much of a timeline for that, or on the strict timeline that would be for the actual evacuation. On the return, we would utilize the Union Passenger Terminal. Nothing changes from previous years. I will say that after Ida, when we had our transportation opportunity there, the city-assisted transportation, when the power was still out, we utilized the Convention Center, Hall J, and I have a map of that and a little plan on that later on in the presentation. And that would be something we would also consider. That worked very well. We have 17 pickup points around the city, denoted by the 13-foot tall steel statues, the vacu spots. Those will always be part of our communication strategy around evacuation. However, with RTA and really great assistance from RTA, this is now the third year that we have been able to confirm with them that we will just use every bus stop in the city that has bus lines on it that run towards Duncan Plaza, will make, or downtown essentially, will make a stop at the Smoothie King Center to let people off.
Yeah, can we pause there for a second, Colin? Because I actually realized this when I was riding around with my son the other day to learn how to drive, and he saw the steel statue with the hand up. As a 17-year-old, he had no idea what that was. And so I had to explain to him this was supposed to be the evacuation points that we had established long after Katrina as rally points to direct people towards singular locations to expedite people to a central location to leave the city. I think there needs to be a conversation with RTA as to what the plan is, because I can tell you that for those people of, I guess, my generation or older, they're going to go to the steel statues because that was something that was really impressed upon us when they were installed. And that there's going to be a separate strategy to also use the bus stops. There's going to be confusion. So I think if you're going to have one or the other, we probably need to advertise that. And I know that the timing of these meetings is after hurricane season starts, but really we should have had that advertisement out kind of in early June, pushing it out there. So if the strategy's changed, we need to educate people, generally speaking, because I think there's already kind of confusion around that.
We'll take that under advisement. Thank you. I will say that we have communicated this both through RTA and through the community, and really, I think there's more work that we can do. So we'll definitely.
Yeah, and this is no fault to any particular group, but I think part of the problem we often find is that we need to work on unified messaging, because RTA has a demographic that follows them. NOLA Ready has a demographic that follows them, and if we have a singular plan on that issue, we need to both be communicating the same plan. And I mean, I would certainly argue that when it comes to hurricane preparedness, you guys are much more proactive, and historically RTA is very reactive. And so I think that if the strategy going forward should be driven by us, it needs to be communicated by RTA to its ridership, because you have people that kind of obsessively follow RTA because they're concerned with routes and the like. If we can get our messaging to them to put out via their mechanisms, it would help you greatly, because the ridership follows RTA, not necessarily us.
Great.
Council
Thank you.
members, if I can just establish a quorum really quick now that we have one.
Okay?
Councilmember Thomas, present. Councilmember Green, present. Councilmember Morell, present. Councilmember Moreno, present. Councilmember Harris, present. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Our amount of residents that we believe that will have critical needs for transportation remains about 35 to 40,000. We had been working with UNO on we'd like to update some of the transportation numbers, and the UNO chart program has been helpful to us in the past. We had at least the underpinnings of a grant for that. That has since been canceled. So we're still seeking funding to potentially do another transportation study about what our current status is with the amount of people that will need or potentially require assistance in transportation. And then again, this is for evacuation. Our transportation modes, as we mentioned, RTA is our primary mover and city partner with getting people to the parish pickup point. From that pickup point, we have a combination, excuse me, we have a combination of motor coach buses contracted by DOTD, buses contracted by the City of New Orleans, a rail agreement with Amtrak, more on that in a little bit. We have the MSY air evacuation, which is a very large project between DOTD, FEMA, and the Department of Defense. And then also, obviously, we rely on about 90% of our population to evacuate in their own private vehicles, which, contraflow has become an issue over the past few years. That is a state plan. We continue to work with the state about the future of contraflow. We had a meeting in May about it. We typically have a operations meeting with both Louisiana and Mississippi authorities every May. It is still a plan. Whether or not it can be executed will be determined by the state. We continue to work with the state to try and work with them to see if they can bring down the timeline from 72 hours. Thus far, that has not been something that they have been able to commit to, but we'll continue that work. About 3 years ago, we started a Reserve to Essential Employee program. This is for non-essential employees. We removed the term non-essential. And the mayor believed that term doesn't really help. Calling someone an employee of this city non-essential is not helpful. Everyone is in reserve status unless they are an essential employee. And with that reserve status, we have been able to do a yearly survey in June, backed up again in August, where we're able to ascertain everyone's emergency plan in accordance with CAO policy. But what it also does is it gives them an opportunity to indicate to us whether or not they'd be willing to assist us in a reserve status, an employee status, particularly post-storm. And this has helped us over the past 3 years, starting with Ida and moving forward with all manner of assistance with emergency resource centers whenever we have activated. And so I think it's a very valuable plan, and we're moving forward this year with additional trainings for employees that will give them more of a idea of what would be expected of them. We had been relying on just-in-time training, and again, these are typically public-facing assistance opportunities in recreation centers after a hurricane, handing out water, handing out meals, being a friendly face. And so we want to continue that and then also improve on our training in the areas of mass care, logistics, and administrative support with those employees. And so it's a very successful program, and I think that it's only going to grow. And it's been a force multiplier for our public safety and infrastructure teams who are typically heavily taxed during the response and recovery from a major event like a hurricane. And so having both the NOLA Ready Volunteer Corps and these reserved to essential employees assisting us has been very helpful. On the technology front, we've made all of our transitioning over to a new WebEOC Nexus program for this season. We've been using WebEOC for years. The state uses WebEOC. This is how we communicate with them for resource requests, situational awareness, and other tools. And so we're at the pretty much at the forefront of what that program is, what's offered out there. And again, that is a link between the city and the state that is very helpful. We also, working with our Region 1 parishes, Jefferson, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard, we have linked up our ability to communicate with each parish EOC as well during a time of disaster, which we recently had a complex coordinated terrorist attack exercise, EOC exercise on June 4th, specifically to test out communications both between our own city departments, the state, and our other EOCs and parishes in the region. It was a very successful exercise, and we were pleased with the communication that was occurring, and we also have some action items that we can take forward and to make us even better with communication. We're currently working with safety and permits, code enforcement, and the police and fire department on offering us preliminary damage assessment support post-storm. We sometimes refer to these as windshield surveys. In the past, the State Fire Marshal's Office was a great assistance to the parishes, not just Orleans, but statewide, in helping us with preliminary damage assessments, getting some of that damage noted, recorded, and available for the state. And a lot of that helps us determine our level of damage towards the Stafford Act reimbursement. Last year, the State Fire Marshal's Office indicated they would not be providing that support anymore, so we have taken it upon ourselves to train in-house locally to do this. It is a little bit more of a burden, but I believe that we're on the right track. Many of these departments already did similar types of windshield surveys, and many of our safety and permits and code enforcement did preliminary damage assessments of city facilities and city-owned property. What we're doing is expanding that out to neighborhoods and residences and businesses as well. And so I think another important thing to point out is technology has assisted with this as well. Any business, any resident can report their damages with photos to damage.la.gov. And we have seen since Ida that has actually been extremely helpful in kind of capturing our damage level that we would receive after a major incident. And so we're continuing to work with those departments and training them on what to look for and how to record these damages that they see out there when they are performing their duties post-event. We've been working on our task force site visits throughout the summer, spring and summer. These are the host facilities that we have around the city, hospitals, Nassamishu, Delgado, other facilities that we use to house public safety in the worst of the worst type scenario where we would have an evacuation of the city for a Category 4 or 5 hurricane. We are fortunate that many of our facilities in the city have whole building generators on them now. So for lower level storms, we are comfortable utilizing those facilities, in the event of a power outage. However, if the storm is large enough and is going to be impactful enough, we do need those other facilities and agreements that we have, those task force sites. So we continue those site visits yearly, and I'd like to particularly appreciate the New Orleans City Council. Over the years, we have asked to move a lot of these agreements, which are $0 agreements, to 5-year terms, so we don't have to constantly go back every year with their law departments and try and redo these agreements. So you all have approved those 5-year terms, and that has made it much more seamless when we come in every year and meet. We can meet and say, has anything changed on your end? Nothing's changed on our end, and we can continue on with that agreement. So thank you for that.
Quick question, Colin.
Yes,
I remember during Ida, we were really scrambling last minute to coordinate with Entergy and figure out generators. So you're saying that now that's been worked out way in advance?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Partially due to Ida, we worked with Entergy and their Power Through program, and we were able to install transfer switches on 15 different facilities, city facilities, predominantly rec centers and libraries, and then also the 16th facility, transfer switch on the New Orleans, the Memorial Convention Center, which is huge. And so now, in August, we begin a regimen, and it'll begin here in a few weeks, of actually acquiring generators, putting them onto a lot of those NORD facilities in advance, because one, it will serve us well if we have a hurricane, and two, as we see from the weather this week, we're going to start getting into extreme heat. And so we do have capacities and sheltering that we do for, and cooling centers that we do for extreme heat. So if we lose power during one of those, having a generator on a facility already, takes a lot of the problematic things about power loss out of the equation. And so through Entergy and through my own team's logistics capabilities, we have no issues getting generators when we need them.
That's great. That's great news and great planning. And also, going back to Ida, obviously the generator here at City Hall, that one failed. So where is our backup EOC? Should something like that happen again?
So we have several different locations that we could use. Primarily, our backup EOC is at EMS headquarters. That was actually spec designed to have an EOC in their large conference room. It would be tight in there. However, we have other options as well. NASA Mishu has an incredibly hardened facility that they've offered for us to use as well. And we could easily set up in the convention center as well if it was necessary.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Consumables. This is just a snapshot of the consumables that we keep on hand and the quantities that we have. Now, these numbers are typically what we keep for first responders responding to a major incident. However, as has been the case for many years, as these things are needed by the public as well, we rotate stock and replenish. We probably are the largest purveyor of bottled water during the summertime, as far as, we will back up the traditional shelter network. We'll back up nonprofits and those that are out there working with the unhoused to make sure that, we encourage all of our employees and really every city employee facing the public to keep bottles of water in their vehicles, in city vehicles if they have them, to make sure that if they see people at intersections, if they see people out there, especially when it's going to be 108 degrees this week, feels like temperature, that there's an opportunity to get bottled water. So,
Councilmember Harris.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank you. I know you stepped in because Ozanam Inn lost their water supply because of issues. And you all stepped in and provided pallets and pallets of water for the unhoused community. So I want to thank you. That was just last week that happened.
No, we're happy to do it, and look, we need to rotate the stock anyway. Water is relatively inexpensive, and so we continue to do that. I actually have, my team last year worked with a current city vendor to do water delivery as well, and that would only be used in a situation where we needed to get a lot more water out than we were capable of doing offhand. But I'm sorry, speaking of water, does anyone have a water? But the vendor, Crescent City Water, has been able to help us with that. And we actually used that last year when we were in a, thank you very much, when we were in a extended excessive heat wave, and we were able to start delivering water. We even delivered water to independent living facilities, working with the health department, just to make sure that, everybody had what they needed. In addition to this, we get a push that typically occurs in August from FEMA that goes to a facility that run by GOSEP that has millions of bottles of water and MREs and other sustainable, what we call consumables, that will be available for us should we need them for a larger storm or a larger incident. And those typically stay there all through August through November, through the end of hurricane season. On the cots, we typically do a cot order around this time of year as well to replenish supplies. We do give cots to the traditional shelters and others that assist us with housing folks when we have extreme heat and extreme cold. And I think it's a small price for the ability for them to open up their facility to the maximum extent possible to bring people in. Slide. Our city-assisted evacuation timeline, it's busy, but it has not changed that much since last year, if at all. We still plot out for 84 hours, knowing that, or realizing that we really have not had that type of notice on any storm, certainly not in the last 5 to 10 years. But we feel comfortable in being able to launch this assisted evacuation should it become necessary up to about 60 to 54 hours before landfall. Again, we have not had that much time in any storm, so one of the things that we've been working on for the past 2 seasons is a city-assisted refuge program that would be for the most vulnerable in our community. That would be the elderly and those with pre-existing medical conditions and mobility issues. The targeted facility for that would be the Memorial Convention Center, particularly with the ability to have generator power on that building. We think that this is something that is absolutely critical for the short notice, rapidly intensifying Gulf forming storm that we typically end up seeing or have seen over the past several years. Not to say that evacuation I think is still our primary objective and our primary goal. It all just really comes down to the amount of time that we have to assist people in getting out. Gives you kind of an idea of what Smoothie King Center setup looks like. Again, anyone can get on any RTA bus in the city, and they will end up at here at the Smoothie King Center. Here you're triaged and given a wristband. You then go inside next slide, inside the Smoothie King Center, where we have transportation triage, which determines whether or not you're going to go on a bus or potentially an airplane or a train. And those buses depart off of the loading dock and then off of the back of Smoothie King Center on Howard Avenue. And then happy to also continue to work with Amtrak on a rail evacuation. This would take trains full of evacuees to Tangipahoa Parish, where they would then be moved further by bus. There's a lot of benefits in this. Obviously, it gets Amtrak involved in our evacuation, which they took a lot of heat for after Katrina, that they pretty much weren't involved. And so that's a continued partnership that we're excited about with Amtrak. And then what it also does is it moves people further north of I-10 and I-12, gets them buses that don't have to come all the way back to the city to load people at Smoothie King Center. We can have a fleet of anywhere from 40 to 50 buses waiting in Tangipahoa Parish for these folks to get off the train, and then a shorter ride to sheltering in central and north Louisiana. So it's a win-win. Also, with the new Mardi Gras service that's been announced, what our agreement is with Amtrak is that whatever equipment they have in the yard when we declare this evacuation will be utilized for the evacuation. With this new Mardi Gras service, that's 4 new trains a day. Two arrivals in the evening, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. I should say arrivals and departures. And so that's extra equipment that we'll have in addition to the trains that go to Chicago, the train that goes, up towards DC, and the train that goes to LA. So having all of that equipment there, I think, is good. This is a great location that we have because it's right out of the back of Smoothie King Center, and literally there is a fence opening that we can utilize to get right onto the grade crossing or the grade platforms for the loading of trains. Our pod site locations have not changed. These are where we work with the National Guard and the state to distribute water and ice and tarps and whatever consumables that the situation dictates. This list is, we certainly can expand on this list. This list does not mean that all of these will be opened at one time, but typically we'll open two on the East Bank and 1 on the West Bank to start off and get the recovery going, and then we'll continue to assess with the state on how many we need. And that's kind of a graphical, it's a map representation. As you can see, we've got plenty of areas to use that are well geographically dispersed throughout the community. DSNAP is obviously the Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's run by the state of Louisiana. However, we assist them with locations on where they can set up to offer those benefits post-disaster. Technology, again, has taken a lot of the brick and mortar out of what we have to do here. They've seen over the years, particularly from IDA onward, an incredible amount of registration online, which would be expected. However, we still believe that offering a brick and mortar location, could potentially be necessary and is always good for our community. So UNO Lakefront Arena for many years has been that large facility, and then also the Alario Center on the West Bank is a regional center, meaning that although it's in Jefferson Parish, it will serve the DSNAP needs of all of our residents on the West Bank and Algiers. Disaster resource centers are run by FEMA, and typically the Small Business Administration comes in and assists there as well with their with the disaster loan program, which is a great program. We typically utilize our libraries for this, and that has not changed from last year to this year. Typically, the main library is the hub of this activity, and then we'll branch out to West Bank library locations, and then also typically the New Orleans East Library. Again, what we have observed is that technology has supplanted a lot of these brick and mortar locations, but we still think that having them set up is so important that, in fact, during IDA, for the first time ever, we worked with FEMA and the Small Business Administration and actually rotated the locations of the DRCs through the emergency resource centers that we had set up at the North Sea, at the rec centers. And FEMA, we got a lot of positive feedback from FEMA and from the SBA about having that ability. I think a lot of it has to do with, where it used to be they would have to hardline in their network and computers and have more of a permanent setup. Everything now, it can be done, with iPads and Wi-Fi. And so they're a lot more mobile. We want them to be mobile. We want them to be, faces and seen in every community that has a need, or certainly during recovery. And so our DRC locations, while we will continue, I believe, always to have a firm location in one of the libraries, particularly the main library, we will also continue to move those disaster resource centers around and spread that out throughout our community. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we are working with our regional parishes on a refuge of last resort. The concept is a safe place for vulnerable populations to ride out the storm during a major hurricane where there is not the timeline for us to adequately evacuate the parish. What this does not mean is that people should expect that there is room for everyone. We need people, if you have the ability to evacuate for a Category 5, 4 or 5 direct hit, to do that and to take care of yourself. But we do realize as well that we have people in the community that don't have that ability, particularly the elderly, those living in independent living facilities, those with pre-existing medical conditions, and those with mobility issues. And that's who we are targeting towards this planning effort. We have conducted numerous workshops with all of our parishes and state agencies. We have a general population and a medical needs concept for this. It would be, same location, 2 different types of facility that would be there. We have our emergency management consultant that we have hired for many different plans, working on a draft right now. And what we expect is that within coming weeks, we believe right now we have the capability to support anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 people as we stand right now in a plan like this. The plan we're trying to develop would go bigger, potentially up to 20,000 people. And we believe that working with our regional partners, working with our state partners, and working with the federal government, that we are going to be able to attain that goal. And that's what we continue to work on. I will say that with the budget season coming up right now, shortly, we have been operating with 3 vacancies that I think is important that need to be filled. And so just giving you a heads up that during this budget season, we'll be pushing pretty hard to make sure that we get and continue to get the funding we need to fill those positions. One of which right now is our volunteer coordinator. It's budgeted. We have yet to be given approval to hire for that position. And as we are in the middle of hurricane season or approaching the middle of hurricane season, it's something that it's creating a burden on the existing staff in my office to cover those vacancies.
Councilmember Green.
What's the limit on your ability to hire the person? Why haven't you gotten that position approved?
It is approved. I just have not been able.
Oh, it's just a matter of filling it. It's not a.
No, I have. It's a budgeted vacancy that I am being told right now that I cannot fill.
Well, you got to tell me more. Who's telling you that?
The administration. I'm being told that we have a hiring freeze.
Oh, come on. They're telling you there's a hiring freeze in the middle of the hurricane season and you have someone.
I need this position, and I don't want to make a huge deal out of it, but that's where we're at right now.
Council members, would anyone like me to make a big deal of the fact that we have a position that is vacant? Yes, okay, let's ask the questions that we need to ask. What kind of money are we talking about? And certainly there should be some exceptions. So what kind of money are we talking about?
It's about a $60,000 a year position.
Council members, I'll take my lead from you in terms of what we might do in this particular instance.
I think
and
that,
then maybe you could talk about the other 2 positions too.
Yeah, I think that it's certainly very telling. Budget documents, and I know Councilman Druso isn't here, budget documents are moral documents. We're supposed to establish what our priorities in a budget as far as what positions we want filled and which are important. And I do think it is very distressing that going into hurricane season, both from June through now, how long has this position been vacant?
Since the beginning of the year.
Okay, and when did the hiring freeze kick in? When did the hiring freeze kick in?
A few months ago.
A few months ago. Okay, so the position was frozen before hurricane season started?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what to say because I don't think that we are in a position. I don't even understand, and I'll just say this on the record, I don't know why there's confusion as to whether or not we have enough money or we don't have enough money to meet the city's needs. Certainly, a position in the area of emergency preparedness would be a priority of ours at this time. So I'm going to ask maybe the CAO's office to comment on what we can do to recognize.
And they've been working on it. I want to make it clear that particularly coming into the budget season, that these things, the other two positions are emergency management positions that have been vacant, and I have a staff that has been in the office for the most part almost a decade. We need to get some new folks to start learning from them, because I think in the future we're going to start, people are going to start taking other opportunities, and I want a new generation of emergency manager to at least be here to learn from the same team that has handled 25 declared disasters in the last 7 years, including a global pandemic, building collapses, hurricanes. I want them to be able to pass on that information before they move on to other opportunities. And that's where I'm at today.
I really don't want to make this yet another issue where we have a conflict, but the reality is that you're saying that since the beginning of the year, monies that we budgeted haven't been able to be utilized to hire someone in a very important area such as this. And I am not of the opinion that our city doesn't have the resources to hire in cases of emergency. So I'll look into it a little bit further. I'm going to ask especially my council members on this committee to advise me, or to let's work together as to what we do to recognize that there are certain positions, especially in our city, which is vulnerable to a lot of activity relative to storms and climates, that need to be, and emergency preparedness that need to be filled.
Thank you, Councilman.
Oh, Lord.
Go to the last slide. I wanted to highlight this. This was the transportation that was done in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, when the power situation, continued to be an issue, and that we knew we had particularly elderly and medically vulnerable that needed some relief from the heat and from that power loss. And we were able to set up basically a smaller concept of what is done in the Smoothie King Center in one hall of the convention center. This worked really well. It included pets. It actually ran about as well as I could have hoped it would. But this is something that I bring up because when we talk about the potential to refuge folks, this would be the post-storm evacuation type transportation that we would be looking to do. And it also exemplifies why the convention center is such a critical facility for that. It may not be the facility in every situation that we would need to do this type of thing. If it's a smaller type situation, maybe a non-hurricane situation, something, we plan for all hazards, whether it was a hazardous materials release or, some sort of complex attack, we may be able to do something smaller on a smaller scale. But for a major hurricane, we believe that particularly short notice, it's going to be critical to have a facility like the convention center that will be available to get the public in quickly, keep them safe, and then get them out, and to either hopefully back to their homes after the event passes. But if not, if the damage is substantial enough, to other areas, sheltering in other areas of the state. And so I wanted to highlight the work that my office has done in creating this and continuing to refine these plans to keep the public safe. And with that, I'll stand for any further questions you might have.
There are no comments. I'm sorry, Mr.
I
Green.
can't press it again.
Oh.
For whatever reason. Can you discuss your relationships and your communications with the convention center? Because of course that's a state agency, and people think that it's controlled by the city of New Orleans, that you can make the decision unilaterally. Would you share with us and the public your communications?
It's been very good, and I think it's been very good because for many years this was talked about, but nobody wanted to acknowledge it. There's a lot of trauma surrounding the convention center and Hurricane Katrina, and I certainly understand that. But my firm belief is that if you put together a good plan and it's adequately sourced, adequately resourced, adequately staffed, and adequately secured, you will not have any issues. And so being able to finally just sit down with the convention center and their leadership and show them what our idea is and the capabilities that we are bringing to bear. We've got commitment from the National Guard. We've got commitment from the New Orleans Police Department to secure it. You know, there are some gaps in the plan right now that we need to address, but we're working on those. They are 100% on board and want to support the city and the residents of the city. And I will add too, and I will just say this, one of the people that have been the biggest help in this community for disasters is Jim Cook, the former general manager of the Sheraton, who just left the Sheraton this weekend and is now going to be the director of the Montreal Convention Center. I cannot think of a better person to be in that role. When we had 30,000 people here from Hurricane Laura and Delta from Southwest Louisiana that were in 40 different hotels around this city, he led that entire charge to make sure that when FEMA offered non-congregate sheltering because of the pandemic and because of the times we were in with that terrible hurricane season in 2020, he was the first person to call me and say, like, what can my hotel do? And we literally took in thousands of our neighbors from Southwest Louisiana that had nothing but the shirt on their back. And that is in, with all all respect to Jim Cook. And so I think that, I know it's a little long-winded, but to answer your question, it's good right now, and I think it's going to be even better once Mr. Cook is fully up to speed. And I look forward to meeting with him one-on-one and letting him know, what our ideas are for the future of this project.
Thank you for sharing that good news, and I look forward to hearing that you and Mr. Cook have been able to work and communicate well, because it's all in the interest of the citizens, residents, visitors to our city. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There are no questions for the council. There are no public comments, so you guys are free to go. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Next up, we have Energy New Orleans.
Thank you.
It's a little slow. Yeah, you did it.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Courtney Nicholson, Regulatory Counsel for E&O. I have Dan Calamari on our reliability team and Jessica Williams from E&O's customer service team here to report on our storm preparedness for this year. I'll kick it over to Dan.
All right. Good morning, council, and thank you for allowing us time to discuss our storm readiness. We recognize that this year is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. The picture on the slide is from Hurricane Katrina, and we want to let y'all know that we are ready to support the city here. Storms are getting stronger, more frequent. They are intensifying quicker. So constantly preparing for major storms is essential. Go to the next slide. Let me go to the next one. At Entergy, we train and prepare for major events all year long. We follow our incident command structure. In May, we completed a formal storm drill with all of our internal teams. Locally, we not only have to prepare for hurricanes, but also tornadoes and winter storms. This past winter, we had a snow event that we had to respond to as well. We have proven to be ready in these events year after year. We have been recognized in the industry for our storm preparedness and response. We monitor weather through a third-party vendor, StormGeo, which gives us predictions and tracks the storms and provides us information as we prepare for them. We do utilize a damage prediction tool with that information that we can predict the damages and also what resources we may need to respond to the storm. Ahead of the storms, we also inspect critical distribution lines. We bring in additional vegetation and distribution line workers and transmission workers as well from neighboring utilities to assist with the restoration. And our continuous cycle of training is very important as we have everyone knows their roles during these times. When storms threaten our areas, we ramp up support. So from a logistics standpoint, we try to be self-sustainable, especially in the hard-hit areas. Our response teams ramp up based on that predicted damage and the intensity and the track of the storm. At Entergy, we all have storm roles, and these folks will move into their storm roles when storms come as well. We have established, based off of past history, pre-storm restoration timelines. These are just estimates. They are based off of the category, the intensity, the forward speed, the rainfall, size, and track of the storm. They're only estimates, and when the storm passes, we will do a full damage assessment, which we will be able to provide more specific restoration times. Next slide, please. So our damage assessment resources, we secure them ahead of the storm. They're ready to be deployed when it's safe to do so. We utilize internal employees and also contractors to be able to perform these assessments. The assessments do take time. It could take multiple days to perform the assessments, and some of the things that our assessors need to in order to capture what damage is out there. Sometimes we have to utilize special equipment, UTVs, drones, airboats, helicopters. We often have to get into backyards and real alleys, which that could create some access issues. It's critical for us to record all of our damages. It helps us restore that system back to pre-storm conditions and also communicate accurate restoration times. Other hazards that these damage assessors need to be aware of and mitigate is fallen debris, such as hanging limbs and so forth that may be damaged during the hurricanes. We have road closures. We have possible energized lines that they have to be aware of. And the wind speed needs to be reduced below 30 miles an hour to make it safe for those employees to be out there. We do provide them some proper personal protective equipment to alert them of energized lines, and it also can be slow as debris is cleared in the roadways for them to collect this data. Although assessments do take some time, we are making repairs to our system as those assessments are being done. We also streamlined some of our engineering where we created field guides for our crews so they know what to put back that may have been damaged. Next slide, please. This slide breaks down the sequence of restoring power after a large event. Many of these steps are occurring in parallel, so it's not a sequential process. We start with the assessment, as I mentioned, and that's both the grid and our generating plants. If our generating plants are offline, they'll go through a startup process. As generation is available, the transmission grid will need to support the load to allow the electricity to travel to our communities. Any damage to the transmission system will need to be repaired. Our transmission lines tied to substations. All the substations in our affected area will be inspected and to ensure that the power can safely be received. Then our distribution lines, those are the poles and wires that you see in our neighborhoods. Those will all need to be repaired, be operable to take that power. We do repair things in a priority of essential services. And what this means is we look at critical infrastructure like the sewage and water board sources, our hospitals and life-critical customers, our police and fire stations, and our communication systems. As we get those essential services up and running, we'll look at a priority list of customers that we have coordinated with the city, but also we look to get the greatest number of customers on at that time as well. And there will be certain areas that are impacted more than others, and those will take a little bit longer to get restored. And as we go to the next slide here, it is important for our customers to understand that
Can we go back one step right
Yes,
quick? As you know, we have a resolution up today on the emergency communications plan, and there was some concern after, as you know, I believe Council Vice President, it was Yuri, correct, Aaron? Yes, Yuri. There was a concern after the last Lotus Shed event that there was not appropriate communication with the Jackson Hub. With the Jackson Hub as far as confirmation that during a load shed or other emergency event where we have to hit switches, that we would take into account the specific needs of a lot of our significant providers like our hospitals. And I just want to highlight that part of what we're doing today is trying to ensure that the emergency communication plan is followed, because we don't want to lose power to most facilities that are essential in the wake of a disaster of some sort or a load shed event. Thank you.
All right, and thank you for that. And it's important to know what assets Entergy owns and what are the customers. So Entergy owns two of the components, your service lines and the actual meter at your home. The customers own the other components that are either attached to the house or our service line. And those are the weatherhead, the stack, the conduit, and the meter box. If any of these components are damaged that are owned by the customer will need to have a qualified electrician make those repairs. It could require some permits before we are able to energize them. And just before I turn it over to Jessica to talk about the customer communication, it's just always important to remember that the safety of our employees and our communities is what we're looking for as we make these restorations.
All right, so good morning. I'll talk about the customer communication aspect of it. Courtney? Yeah, thank you. So when we're communicating with our critical customers and our community organizations, our council district customer service managers have checked in with all of their critical customers and managed accounts. They've completed storm season preparation demonstrations to various neighborhood organizations around the city, as well as presented to organizations like the Home Builders, Greater Hotel Lodging Association, and the Restaurant Association. Our designated customer service manager, who supports the restaurant industry, has also reached out to several of those managed accounts. Customer service managers have touch points with their managed accounts, neighborhood and community organizations 72 and 24 hours before landfall. We do ask our customers to take a look at their property and report any power delivery concerns, such as leaning poles, low wires, vegetation, or any other concerns they may see. 24 hours after landfall, our customer service manager will provide damage assessment information to those same entities and estimated restoration times as that information becomes available. And so next slide, Courtney. So keeping customers informed. There are ways that customers can receive information during a storm event. You can sign up for text or email updates, visit our Storm Center website, and you can also follow us on social media and the View outage map. We also coordinate damage assessment timelines and general restoration times and other storm information through NOLA Ready. We'd want to thank Colin and NOSEP for that collaboration. In the event the View outage map is overwhelmed, we will message customers via email or text that the View outage map is overwhelmed, and the most up-to-date information will be sent via email or text if customers are signed up. And there will also be a banner ad on our website as well as social media posts with this information. So for the post-storm communication, next slide. Yeah. For post-storm communication, we've coordinated our critical customer list with the city, like we did in Hurricane Francine, and they've provided a list of senior living facilities that will be used to prioritize their restoration once all critical customers are back on. We've also worked, like Dan said, we've worked with Sewage and Water Board and other medical facilities to ensure we have their critical customer sites listed as well, and those are up to date. Initial storm communications, we work with the council like we did during Hurricane Francine. NICA Scott will continue to provide initial updates on the damage assessment and the restoration process, and we will allow our CSMs to provide additional information on the regular outage district text chain that we have. All customer service managers will be embedded in their respective networks to make sure they are getting the fastest and most accurate information for reporting. Our staff will also be embedded at the city's EOC throughout the storm as required by NOSEP. And so Colin kind of talked about this. This is the map of the City of New Orleans sites that are generator ready. The city will determine which and if any sites are opened. And just so you're aware, we also work with NOSEP to know what locations are open. And if, when they give us that list, we do deem those as priority to make sure they do have power. And we have been advised that the convention center will be a shelter of last resort if evacuation is not possible. And that's it for the customer service.
Thank you. Councilman Thomas for a question.
No, I mean, I think less of a question and more just to really kind of tell you guys, I think the communication effort has really been stellar. You know, one of the things that the 14 years I was out of politics, one of the things that I noticed was coming back was the lack of communication and level. And the energy of the company, you can say what you want about it, but the level of communication, collaboration, relationships, and will to talk to people was from Dan Packard and Mouton to a lot of those guys, they kind of went overboard, and it was kind of a company staple, but I have seen you guys actually raise that level. Now, you can't stop, you know. I think Confucius said, Mother Nature does not have to insist. She can do what she wants. She can blow your house down or blow your lines down. So we can talk about preparation all we want. But the one thing that was missing during Hurricane Katrina was the communication part of it, whether it was technology or will or relationships. But from y'all district people to, I've seen an increase in the ability to communicate, collaborate, and actually be on the front end. So I get some comfort there. Now, we can't stop what's inevitable. But I really have seen that effort, and I enjoy it. And I know that one of the young men assigned to my district has gone overboard in communicating and really talking about what the possibilities are. And I can tell you that whether it's community events or it's events around the city, y'all have been present there. So that's a major step in the right direction. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
No other questions? Okay, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have some online comments. Nope, not on this one. Okay, you're good to go. Thank you. Next up, we have Delta Utilities.
Good morning, council members. Tim Poche, I'm CEO of Delta Utilities and Delta New Orleans Gas Company. It's great to be with you today. And we're very happy to talk about our hurricane and storm preparedness. But before that, I would like to just provide a couple minutes just to give you an update of where we've been since the transaction that has occurred on July 1st. With the acquisition of nearly 100,000 customers here in New Orleans, Delta Utilities is now serving over 600 customers throughout Louisiana and Mississippi, and we're the largest natural gas utility in the state. Critical to that transaction, as we talked about, is the 700 employees that transitioned with us and traveled. And 100% of the people that were serving the utilities in New Orleans and throughout the state are still operating and serving those businesses. A little bit about what the transaction meant for the customers here in New Orleans. The transaction was seamless, and we have transitioned everybody's service without any interruption. Our gas service centers on Canal Street and on General de Gaulle in the West Bank are open and receiving customers and answering questions. Our customer call center that's located here in the city is operative. And we've fielded about 18,000 calls throughout that transition period. Beginning July 7th, we began sending bills out to people. 89,000 people have been billed to date. Our service technicians are out initiating service. And we're meeting our commitments. About 18,600 people, customers have registered online, and about 11,000 people have requested paperless billing. So the transition is going very well to date. It's a very important, monumental feat that we've gone, and we're very cognizant of what that meant to our customers and in the community in general. And as we turn our attention to hurricane and storm preparation, we've taken that same focus as to what could be presented to us.
Good morning, council members. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this morning. Tim just mentioned, but as a reminder to everyone, that we do have our in-person customer care centers available for customers to interact with customer service representatives on both the East and West Bank. And you're seeing pictures of those on this slide. We're co-located with Entergy at the Customer Care Center at 3400 Canal. We're there to help customers with setting up their online accounts with billing questions Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And then on the West Bank, we've partnered with Liberty Bank. We're very proud of that partnership, located at 3535 General de Gaulle, where our customer service representatives are there Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then on Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And as Tim mentioned, our representatives are available 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, at our customer service number, which is 1833 Delta 99. Okay, so in terms of our capabilities, Tim's previously mentioned that our experienced team that's joined Delta as part of the transition, the 200 employees that have come over, I think that's absolutely critically important from a hurricane preparedness and an institutional knowledge perspective. Delta Utilities operates with a battle-tested emergency response protocols that are not changing, and they have proven effective. Our established procedures ensure rapid mobilization during outages, natural disasters, or system emergencies to minimize downtime and maintain public safety. We have secured contracts with more than one logistics vendor to allow for flexibility during any kind of events. We utilized advanced leak detection and repair systems that align with industry standards for natural gas safety and enable proactive identification of potential issues before they become a safety concern, ensuring both system reliability and community protection. You may, in fact, see Delta Utilities vehicles moving slowly, or employees actually walking in neighborhoods performing these inspections routinely. Given that our territory spans portions of both Louisiana and Mississippi, we can draw upon the additional experienced natural gas employees, which puts us in a great position as it provides surge capacity during emergencies. This expanded workforce capability also ensures that we can handle operational challenges in helping us to maintain service quality. From a hurricane preparedness standpoint, our emergency response team consists of experienced professionals. They've managed critical incidents before across various scenarios. Delta Utilities operates through a coordinated multi-agency approach, working seamlessly with local emergency responders, fire departments, emergency management services, law enforcement, and regulatory agencies. And this collaborative framework ensures a unified response effort, eliminates communication gaps, and leverages the full spectrum of our available resources during emergency situations. We have real-time monitoring right here in New Orleans that enables our team to protect critical infrastructure while also continuing to maintain our system reliability. We maintain comprehensive customer communication protocols to make sure that people are informed before, during, and after emergency situations. We have a multi-channel approach. It includes direct notifications, social media updates, website communications, and coordination with local media if needed, just to make sure that our customers receive timely and accurate information about service status, safety measures, and restoration timelines, if that were the case. In terms of pre-storm preparations, we're continuously monitoring our natural gas distribution networks in real time so that we can detect pressure variations and adjust as needed to ensure that we have consistent delivery to our customers. We also maintain emergency response units positioned strategically throughout our service area to ensure that we can respond rapidly if there were an incident. Finally, our 24/7 Emergency Response Center, which operates from New Orleans, has full redundancy capabilities in Baton Rouge, again, to ensure uninterrupted emergency coordination during major events.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So the way that it works with the district council people and the at-large members with Entergy, and they have a great communication protocol, as Councilmember Thomas said, is that there's a person assigned to each district. They have our cell phone numbers, they have all of our contact information. Do we have that, or is it just you right now?
It is me, and it's also Ryan King, our Chief of Regulatory, who's here today.
Okay, so we just need to make sure that we get all that information exchanged.
Yes.
I just talked to Matt, and I was like, who's our person? And he said it's you.
Yes.
Which is fine, but I just want to make sure that it's you.
Thank you. Okay, in terms of pre-storm actions, our team would be deployed to inspect our pipeline infrastructure wherever needed. We would pre-position personnel and equipment throughout our network, again, with the ability to draw upon resources from other locations throughout our territory. We would activate emergency supplier contracts for logistics, for staging of equipment, et cetera, to guarantee immediate access to any kind of critical materials or equipment or specialized services that we would need during an emergency situation. We would institute customer communication campaigns to keep customers informed through the channels that I mentioned before, direct notification, social media, local media, et cetera, to maintain both transparency and ensure trust during critical situations. And our mutual aid agreements through the Southern Gas Association with other utilities create an expanded resource network that provides additional workforce, equipment, and expertise should there be a large-scale emergency. During the storm, our 24/7 monitoring in the Emergency Response Center that I mentioned provides continuous oversight of our system operations. We'll maintain active coordination protocols with other utilities so that our response efforts are complementary. We would routinely provide first responders with current system information, safety protocols, and technical support to ensure that utility crews receive necessary scene security and traffic control for safe operations should they need it. And we would be using our damage assessment technology to continuously evaluate any system impacts. Finally, in terms of post-storm recovery, we understand the need to follow established protocols for restoration that address critical infrastructure first, including hospitals, emergency services, and essential community facilities. We would conduct safety inspections, such as leak tests, before restoring service to any area, prioritizing public safety, of course, at customers' meters. We would coordinate with electric grid restoration to support overall recovery and reduce customer inconvenience during restoration periods. And finally, we would be proactive with affected customers and keep them informed throughout any restoration process with regular progress reports, safety information, and realistic timeframe expectations. And I'll close by just mentioning that we have conducted emergency tabletop exercises as part of our preparations to prepare for a variety of scenarios that could potentially happen across our organization.
And I think one of the things that was key to that is that there were very good and skilled and seasoned incident command structures in place in the businesses that we inherited, and we made sure that from a corporate perspective, there were no gaps, and anything that was being provided on a corporate level is now being provided by us. And we feel very good from an emergency response perspective that we're able to supplement the 200 legacy gas utility field service people with 500 additional people throughout the state to help us respond to emergencies in a broader geographic area in a very timely process.
Councilmember Green?
Are there any tips that you'd like to offer to the public, to the people who are watching? There are tens of thousands of people watching right now, and you have an opportunity to tell them what they might be able to do to prepare for, because we forget about gas service sometimes, but there are some things that people can do.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is make sure that where their meter is located at their house, that it's free of items that maybe fall and damage that area. We certainly won't want building materials to fall and to cause a leak at that. And as always, if they smell gas, to evacuate the area and to notify us and call 911.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I was
Sarah.
just going to add that, just a reminder, if anybody is upgrading any appliance in their home, if they're getting a new generator, any appliance that requires natural gas, they should make sure to contact us so that we can ensure that they have the appropriate size meter to handle that.
Feel free to be very deliberate about telling people that, okay?
We will. Thank you.
All right.
One thing that I would encourage you to do, and I know it was in Entergy's presentation, is that since you have absorbed a tremendous amount of Entergy employees, if you could provide some timelines for restoration depending on the categories of the storm, that would be helpful. I mean, it's important to kind of set expectations for the average individual, average ratepayer, and so I think that in particular is helpful because sharing that information really lets people know if you're going to stay for a Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5 storm, there has to be an expectation of if there's a service interruption, what does that look like? Because one of the good, bad things of being in an area that is more hurricane prone and less earthquake and tornado prone, generally speaking, is that we do have some notice of when things are going to occur. And I know in particular there is a tremendous amount of people in our area that are now relying upon natural gas generators. And natural gas generators are great unless there's a service interruption. And so I do think that as people tend to want to stay in their homes more, thinking that because of the gas generator, if power's interrupted, they'll be able to stay. I think having notice of what that interruption would look like if there is a gas interruption, if there's a larger line rupture or some other compromise, what that will look like, I think would be helpful. So if you get that to us at the appropriate time and include it in future presentations, it'd be helpful.
Sure.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Any public comment? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Sewage and Water Board, front and center. Front and center. Everybody look. Whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. Good morning, council members. Susan Warber, we're happy to give you a brief on our hurricane preparedness. I'm glad you're joined by our communications director, Sarah Labatt. To my right, our general superintendent, who is Steve Nelson, and our deputy general superintendent of Pumping and Power, Caitlin Timmerick. Again, we'll give a brief on our hurricane season preparedness as well as our power complex update. Again, the agenda for today is I'll speak briefly on the Storm Center before I turn it over to Steve. We're going to talk about our current pumping and power status, our hurricane preparedness activities, as well as our minor drainage cleaning efforts and our power complex progress up to date. Quick thing on the Storm Center, we're asking the customers and the public to visit swebno.org. That is a wealth of information relative to the activities associated with Sewage and Water Board and the Storm Center. We will redirect to this page during the storm, and we do have backup available in case our servers go down. The Storm Center includes our pumping and power status update. It has the links to the hurricane resources such as from FEMA, the National Hurricane Center, NOLA Ready, and et cetera. The weather-wise from NOLA Ready, and as well as our various press releases. So I'll turn it over to Steve Nelson, who will do our hurricane preparedness, followed by Caitlin Timmerick, who will brief us on the power complex. Steve?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Ron. Thank you all for having us here this morning. From a power standpoint, on the next slide, we are in a good position. We have 67.5 megawatts of power available. We need 44 megawatts of 25 hertz power at peak demand. Turbine 4 was online from Wednesday of last week through Sunday of this week. That's a turbine that, as we all know, is World War I era. It is a piece of equipment that we use when we have, only when we have strong advance notice of heavy weather. We had that last week. It performed very, very well. Turbine 5 is also available for use, and Turbine 6 is back in full use as of Tuesday of last week. We have 5 out of 5 electromotive diesels available, as well as a number of our frequency changers. Our major pumps, we'll have a detailed breakdown here in 2 slides, but as of this morning, we have 84 of 93 major pumps available, with several pumps coming back here in the coming weeks, so we will talk through that very shortly. On the next slide, some of the things that we're doing to prepare for hurricane season is ensuring that we have 60 hertz backup generation. 25 is very important, but we do also have a significant need for 60 hertz power. Those dots in orange that you see are locations where we have backup generators for our stormwater pumps. Those are available and ready for use, and those are tested on a regular and ongoing basis. We have a major rental generator at Drainage Station 16, and we also have our own portable generators at Station 14. On the next slide, I'll walk through briefly here the pump status. We have 84, as I mentioned, of 93 pumps. There's one not on there. We have F pump at Station 1, which drains much of Uptown. There is routine maintenance ongoing at that pump. We expect that to be back in service by the end of the week. We just have to do an inspection on it. That leaves that station at 84% total capacity. Station 4, which drains Gentilly, there is E pump, that's the 4th pump. We are at 73% capacity, and we expect that pump to return to service by the end of August. There are 2 bearings that need to be replaced there. We have 2 pumps that are for emergency use only for the upper coast of Algiers. The first has a bearing issue. We expect that to be addressed within the next 4 to 6 weeks. The assessment of that will be complete this week. That is available for emergency use. It can run, but we do know the bearing needs to be replaced. We also have a gearbox issue at the number 6 pump there. That is also available for emergency use if we had a named storm or the canal level gets too high. Station 14 in New Orleans East, we anticipate a return to service by the number 3 pump by the end of August. Each of the 3 major pump stations, I will note, in New Orleans East are tied together by the Morrison Canal, and each of those 3 stations has 4 pumps. So we have a lot of redundancy in that part of the system. That doesn't mean we don't want to get those pumps back. We have return to service dates on each of those, but we do have additional redundancy there in the east. Station 15, that number 1 pump is anticipated to be back the end of September. 16, also in the east, the number 4 pump anticipated here by the end of this month. Number 18, Station 18, that's also in the east. We anticipate return to service by the end of August. And then Station 19, we have that serves the upper 9th ward. We do anticipate that being back in service by the end of this week. Our crews are on site today, and as soon as they finish up there, they're going to the number 4 pump at Station 13 in Algiers. The next slide shows a couple of pictures. Sometimes we get questions about, well, why don't we rent additional pumps? These are very, very large pieces of equipment. Some of those pipes there are 8, 10, 12 feet in diameter. So these are pumps that are moving thousands of gallons per second, 1,000 cubic feet per second in some instances. So the parts are special made, and those pumps are very large. In terms of operations, for the sewer pump stations, rental pumps are in place. We do have standby generators also available. We've talked about some of the issues with power And if we do have widespread losses of power, those are some of the lessons learned from Ida. We have rental generators available. We have a large generator that, as I mentioned, is on at DPS 16. We also have a large generator available to power sewer pump station A in the French Quarter, which is a very, very large pump station for us. Our emergency contracts for fuel are in place. We do continue to clean our canals. We remove large debris on an ongoing basis. And our contractor who operates the East and West Bank sewer pump stations, sewer treatment plants, Veolia, has also completed their generator testing as well as their other hurricane preparedness exercises. Our communication equipment has been tested, including our radios, life rafts, boats. Our emergency preparedness plan, key personnel contacts have been updated for this year. We have had 2 internal workshops within the Sewerage and Water Board. We've also conducted a citywide pre-storm season meeting, and we've also met with Entergy. We've also coordinated with the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority East for the operation of those pump stations at the lake. And we have ongoing coordination with Entergy as needed. The last slide I will present on refers to our drainage consolidation. And after the power complex project, I firmly believe that the clearing of surface drains is by far the most important thing that we can do to positively affect the lived experience of our customers, not only for named events, but also for those random summer pop-up thunder showers. We have 5 vac trucks that our departments are using. We have 2 full-time crews and then up to 5 5 crews internally working nights and weekends. We also have CES, who recently launched an $8 million contract. They have 8 crews. So we have between 10 and 13 crews working 7 days a week, removing debris. We've cleared, at this point, 117,000 linear feet of drain lines and almost 2,200 storm drain structures. We've removed almost 2 million pounds of debris thus far this year. And in CES's latest iteration of their contract, they removed 500,000 pounds of debris in the first 10 days. So we're finding that the system, 50% of the lines that we're assessing do require cleaning. So there is a lot of trash in the system. And if we get that out, then the system functions much more efficiently. Assessments and cleanings are based on 311 data. So I would encourage our customers to continue calling 311. We have a backlog of about 5,000 individual work orders, and we are working that from both ends to the middle. We have crews that are focusing on the latest complaints, and we have crews that are also focusing on the oldest complaints. Again, the goal is to be able to clean 20% of the system a year. We talk about the capacity of the system, 1 inch in the first hour, a ½ inch every hour thereafter. That starts at the catch basin and it ends at the pump. So if we can't get the water from the catch basin to the canal to the pump, then we end up with block-to-block street level flooding issues. And so this, I believe, is a very, very important issue for us. The funding piece, we at this point have much of the funding obligated. We have about $13 million that we believe will be available this year. The fair share funding, which the mayor's first term was critical in addressing, has been extremely helpful. We look forward to that being a recurring revenue source. We also look forward to the ability to utilize traffic camera revenues. But at this year, we have about 13 million out of the 25 to 35, 40 that we need. So I do want to keep that conversation going, that in order to meet that level of service of 20% a year, we are going to need to continue to have those conversations. We look forward to that. But I do believe that the system is being cleared as best that we can with the resources, and I see it making a difference on a daily basis. With that, wanted to again thank the council for having us here. We understand the importance of the power complex project. We understand the partnership that you all have given to it, the administration, state and federal partners, and the importance of having it online here for peak hurricane season. And I'll turn it over to our deputy superintendent.
Before we get to the next one,
Yes,
Councilmember
please.
Harris.
Yeah, no, I think as we've talked about throughout this meeting, communications is critical. One of the communication points that we try to convey is that people should clear the front of their catch basin.
Yes.
It is not, you guys cannot be everywhere all at once during these storms or preceding the storms. And so really it is critical for people who see debris, vegetation, the gutter buddies to move them in advance of storms so that drainage can actually happen. And again, Steve, I want to thank you and your team for coming out last week to a construction site where we had to move debris and other things in advance of a storm that actually never hit. But it was good that we were out there seeing the debris that needed to be moved.
Thank you very much, and that's a really good point. It's all of us together, and every pound of debris that we don't get into the system is a pound that's not blocking those basins. So yeah, whether it's the leaves, the grass in my yard, I'm responsible for
Right.
cleaning up my grass.
Yeah, and that's the other point is if you're doing your lawn or have a lawn person, please tell them to avoid the catch basins.
Yep.
Because that clogs the catch basins, and that imperils not only your house, but your neighbors' houses.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Green?
The second question that, or the second statement that Councilmember Harris made was what I wanted to emphasize. We're a city where grass grows tremendously, but I think that sometimes those who clean up think that the grass just goes away if you push it into the drain. I always like to encourage the public that if you want to contribute to making the city better and safer, to tell the person who cuts your grass to put it in bags, because it will be picked up. That's all.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was a continuation.
I had that very situation happen with a neighbor. The grounds crew was blowing the grass together. It looked like they were getting ready to blow it into the catch basin. I asked them very nicely, hey, would you mind picking it up? And I just think that they didn't understand. Picked it up, put it in a trash can, and every time since they've done the same thing, and that makes a difference.
Yes, and the problem is not solved by blowing it onto the neutral ground either,
Right.
because eventually the water pushes it back out. So if the members of the public would just be, aware that it's simply best to bag up what was collected during those instances of cutting grass and trimming trees and the like, and it'll be picked up.
Yep.
It'll be picked up. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, Caitlin?
Morning, everyone. So as this council is very aware, the Power Complex is a multi-year program that started in the fall of 2020 with the overall outcome of replacing our aging 25 hertz power generation infrastructure. The new Power Complex...
Wait, ma'am, sorry,
Yes.
I missed Councilmember Thomas.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just, while we're on grass, I didn't want to come back and bring it up again. First of all, thank you guys for paying more attention in more detail to the grass cutting, especially along the canals. Whoever was cutting the grass before, either they didn't care about cleanup and how they cut it or how they left it. It was a lot of patchwork. I don't know if it's the same company. If it's the same company, they're doing a better job. But the people in New Orleans East and the people in some of our neighborhoods who feel like they're forgotten, they need the same trim jobs as folk do around the bayou in the better parts of the city. And I would hope that they would take more pride in making sure, especially communities that feel like they're disparaged or left out, get the same treatment and the same work. Now to our canals. Our canals are not just for outflow. They're also for storage. And one of the things that, and guys, thank y'all for being responsive, Mr. Spooner and Mr. Nelson. But I'm increasingly, as we monitor and look at it, especially during storm season, and I'm more on alert during that time, because if we have a lot of rainfall, if we don't have the proper amount of outflow because there's so many more inches per hour, then they become storage. So if you have overgrowth that consumes 2 or 3 feet of potential storage, then that's hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. And I'm looking at canals that if it's not just outflow or flowing water to stations to pump it out, the storage is being compromised because the undergrowth and the overgrowth is drastic right now. So what do we tell the public if we have a canal that has 3 feet of not just mud, but grass and debris in it? That's 3 feet of storage space, times hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of gallons per square inch, or whatever, however you want to measure it. But so what are we doing there, especially during this season where we're seeing pop-up storms, flash floods, when certain communities are being deluged with more water than in many cases, especially the outflow canals, can maintain?
Yeah, so.
And are we aware of that?
Yes, so maintaining the canals is every bit as important as the small diameter drainage. And we do have crews that maintain those canals. We work to remove the water hyacinth before it sinks dies, falls to the bottom of the canal. But yes, cleaning the canals is a key piece, and we talked about that recurring revenue piece and being able to have the staff, the equipment, and those contracts. We have good contracts and good contractors. That helps clean the system. And yes, that is important. So we're aware of that. We're maintaining the canals, and we're looking forward to discussions around things like a stormwater fee to be able to increase those revenues and do more work in a given year, because we do need to be able to provide that level of service.
And so while we're talking about stormwater management, are we aware, and you would have to be in these discussions to understand it, but can we put in the layman's terms, are we aware of what our water table should be? Because I've heard so much from experts and been on panels and conferences to talk about, if you don't really understand what your water table should be, if you don't have enough, it can damage in terms of subsidence and affecting communities. And if you have too much, we know what the response is. But for our community, what should our water table should be? Or do we even know that?
Wow.
It depends on the part of the city and the time of year.
Yep.
And actually, there are discussions going on right now, because there are monitoring wells around the city that the city has maintained. And we are working on a plan to monitor those, because you're absolutely right. The drought that we saw in the summer of 2023, we saw the water table drop because it didn't rain for many, many weeks on end. And that creates a situation where the water table drops, soil consolidates, and what we saw is water mains breaking at an increased rate. We saw a lot fewer sewer issues, but we experienced a lot more water issues. And then when the rain came back in January, December, we started seeing sewer issues pop up. So yes, it has an effect on homes.
And I only say that to say that because in talking to folk like Michael Bennett and some others, and listening and having conversation and reading, we have spent as much time fighting against nature and water as we have determining what level we can live with and how do we protect ourselves by living with it. And everything I'm hearing is that the future of moving into the 21st century is not a fight against nature, but how do we work with nature to make sure that we're preserving the right levels?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and I want to say, Councilman Thomas, that's a good point. People do forget in this part of the region, you must always live with water, must always live with nature. So again, as Steve indicated earlier, a couple of years, it was dry, but it appears we're back into a wet cycle. So you can definitely see that water table has probably risen up somewhat. You can tell from the grass in your home, grass is growing. Sometimes you got to cut grass twice a week. So again, as you indicated earlier, one of your previous comments, you can never beat Mother Nature. You just have to learn how to live with Mother Nature, and that's where we're headed. Yes, sir.
All right.
Caitlin?
Yep, thank you. Again, Caitlin Timrak, Deputy General Superintendent. So back to our update on the power complex. This is something that we'd started in fall of 2020, and again is the overall goal of replacing our outdated 25 hertz power generation infrastructure. It consists of three main components: the dedicated Entergy substation, providing transmission level power to us, backup 60 hertz turbines, and 3 new static frequency changers. These frequency changers are the key components that functionally replace the older turbines and generators by taking 60 hertz power and converting it to 25 hertz power, which is then in turn used by the older pumps in our drainage system, which are primarily located in 8 pumping stations in the older part of town, as indicated on the map by the stations that have the circles around them. So again, as a reminder, the capacity of our drainage pumping system isn't changing through this, but the reliability of the power for that system is. Go to the next slide. We're at the point now where the first of those 3 frequency changers is anticipated to come online in August. In December 2022, as a reminder, we broke ground, or Entergy broke ground on their substation in that area, and now 2.5 years later, we are at the final stages. So this photo that you see here is of the present day. While we had originally anticipated the first frequency changer to come online in July, this expectation has been revised by our contractor to be in August. We also anticipate that in August, we will be able to use the 60 hertz power directly from the substation for our main operations at the Carrollton Water Plant, which will provide additional level of security for those operations. The Sewage and Water Board and our contractors have been and will continue to work collaboratively on the major milestones leading up to frequency changer 1 being available. And on July 11th, we reached the first major milestone of completing the physical final connections to the Entergy substation, meaning that we can now use that power for testing and commissioning of the new equipment. So again, the photo that you're seeing here is of the site currently, and before moving on to more details on current status, we wanted to share some before, during, and after photos of the site so that you can see the progress that's been made. Go back one, there we go. Go back to, there we go, thank you. So the photo on the left is of the site in summer of 2020, when the area was still unused water treatment basins. And 2 years later, well, I mentioned that, 2 years later in 2022, we broke ground on the substation, and the photo that you see here on the right is about summer 2024, where significant progress had been achieved, including you can see the foundations for the frequency changers coming together at this point. The first major construction project that SWEPNO started was the construction of the utility rack, which is needed to carry electrical conduit and cable from one side of the plant to the other. This was a major undertaking to build a structure about 1,500 feet long with piles ranging, from 60 to 100 feet deep, which needed to be installed around existing underground conduit and piping. Next came the foundations and the installation of electrical conduit at the power complex site itself, much of which at this point is underground. So what you see there in the middle two photos is actually not visible anymore because of all of the underground work that we had to do. And when the foundations were ready, then we were able to start receiving the equipment. So what you see today at the site is this. These are the frequency changers, which are the long white enclosures in the middle of the photo, with their transformers on the ends and on the side, and electrical switchgear in separate enclosures. The utility rack has been completed with a majority of electrical cable pulled across it. This is one view looking west, and another view looking to the east across the plant. So putting all of this together, you can see the major components. This has been a major accomplishment, including 11 individual contracts, 8 different funding sources, and of course significant support from this council and our state representatives to get to this point. So you can see the substation, the frequency changers, turbine 7, power distribution centers, and the utility rack all complete on this photo. So moving on to the next steps. This is a difficult slide to get into details, but we wanted to share a visual representation of the major contract elements that have been completed since January of 2024 and demonstrate how interdependent and overlapping these elements are. We started the Phase 1 commissioning contract with our joint venture contractor in the summer of 2024, following the support of this council. The items in bright green represent the work completed on that contract to date related specifically to the frequency changers in the turbines, in turbine 7. And at this point, we are in the final stages of the work, the bulk of which is testing and commissioning. The testing and commissioning phase is...
Wait, stop for a second, because obviously there has been a tremendous amount of coverage regarding the timing of when these elements will come online and whether or not there were delays, whether delays were contemplated by the contractor or whether or not these were exposed the contractors to some liabilities. I got a couple of questions. They're pretty straightforward. My understanding is that a component of these delays was based upon supply chain or machine work with parts. How much of this delay was due to actual components?
So the change in the schedule from June to August.
Correct.
Really hasn't been related to supply chain parts. It's been related to the commissioning and testing piece that Caitlin was talking about.
Okay, now, obviously, in previous meetings and previous conversations, the council has represented, based upon what's presented to us, this would be done in July. What changed?
So the ability to test this equipment out and understand exactly how it works, I think, is, again, that testing and commissioning piece is what has driven that schedule extension. So up until the end of June, we were of the understanding that it would also be online here in July. And we do have power to it, but we've got to go through, the contractor, I say we, the contractor has to go through a series of tests of each piece of sequential equipment to make sure that it functions correctly. It's been tested at the factory, and now that it's installed, it has to be tested in site. So the testing and commissioning piece, I think the contractor had some challenges understanding the testing and commissioning schedule, and that is what led to the delay that we're facing now.
But was that contemplated in the contract? As far as from your perspective as Sewage and Water Board, when you are setting expectations for the work with your contractor, was it that your contractor underestimated how much testing would be required? It did not contemplate that when they were giving your updates? Or was there some other intangible that came out of this that created that delay?
Yeah, I piggyback on Steve. Yes, they did contemplate that. Testing Commission, that was part of their specifications. But one of the delay factors was associated with the testing and commissioning agent. And I think Caitlin was going to go into that factor. But that was one of the factors at the beginning part of this year, that qualified and experienced professional, once that professional left the project, that's where that gap came in with that delay.
And who's under whose auspices was that professional working? Was that yours or was it the contractor?
No, it's the contract responsibility per the plans and specification. And I'll ask if Caitlin to expound somewhat into the slide with new equipment and commissioning elements. She does have some.
So is there any exposure from the contractor based upon the delay?
The exposure, there are certain elements.
The lawyer in me is always like, if you run over time, I want money back.
There are elements in the contract specification relative to delays and potential damages. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Caitlin.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so just going into a little bit more detail on the testing and commissioning phase, the analogy that they were using is like a new car car manufacturer putting a new car out into the market, right? They do extensive test drives across the country before it goes to the market. And so that's what we're doing here. We need to make sure that the equipment works as it's originally designed and is intended, and that also that all of the equipment works together. There's also safety checks for the equipment, for our people, and it's a time when we're also taking the opportunity to train our staff. And as Ron and Steve mentioned, this is a process that is managed by qualified individuals who are referred to as commissioning agents. These individuals are highly skilled and experienced and are in high demand across the country. So as Ron had mentioned, there had been initial commissioning agent assigned to the project last fall. That individual left, and the current commissioning agent has been on site since April of this year. So a couple of more quick visuals, just again, kind of looking at the whole site and then moving on to the next slide. Looking at the power flow for the entire equipment. So not going into too much detail here, other than to say there are about 15 major pieces of equipment that have to work together. And it is certainly possible that during this phase, we will find issues with the equipment. We'd certainly prefer to find them at this point than after we start using equipment for the pumps. So that's why this is so important. And if there is any risk to delay in the schedule, it would be due to any items that are discovered during this time period.
Let me add one more. This is a very good slide for the council as well as the public. This is a very critical milestone where we are with testing and commissioning. So if you can take a look at that slide, the little, well, I shouldn't say the yellow arrow, Sullivan to PDC 2. That was the first major milestone that was achieved within a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, which allows Energy Power to be, I would say, transmitted, but is energized. So we actually have Energy Power into the Sewage and Water Power Complex side in what we call the PDC 2. And from there, we're doing our additional testing with the other major pieces of equipment. And as Caitlin indicated, as part of the overall testing and commissioning scheme, not exercise, but process, each piece of equipment has to be tested, certified, signed off on, and eventually we'll get everything to go to central control. So again, yellow designates 60 hertz, and then when we talk about 25 hertz, the 25 hertz will be generated from the static frequency converters and powered to central control. So again, 2 sources of power will be coming from the power complex to our main facility, which is central control. And I'll turn it back over to Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. So again, as of right now, based on the most recent progress and communication from our joint venture contractor, the frequency changer 1 should be available for its 30-day reliability test in mid-August. At this point, we will be using it for rail drainage loads. During this time, the contractor will continue to be responsible for the operation of the unit, supported by our own staff and additional training of our staff. And at this point, if there are any issues pairing this new equipment with our older equipment in the system, we would also troubleshoot and address any of those things at that time. So again, we had been previously working under the expectation that this would happen in July. We do feel that the current schedule is realistic, but still aggressive and requires continued close coordination amongst multiple parties. The contractor has assured us that they are taking every measure possible, including necessary overtime and additional qualified individuals at their own cost to continue to make meaningful progress as safely and quickly as possible. So finally, go back, yeah. So to summarize the different pieces of equipment that are part of this current contract, we've spoken about frequency changer 1. When that is available, turbine 5 will still be in use, although turbines 4 and the EMDs will become backup power sources. Frequency changers 2 and 3, we anticipate beginning their 30-day reliability test in October. There's still some physical connection work that has to be completed before they can be tested and commissioned. But when these two are available, turbine 5 will no longer be a primary power source, and turbine 4 can be decommissioned by the end of the year as planned. We anticipate at this point beginning the commissioning of turbine 7 in November, which will take between 60 and 90 days to complete. And this turbine would be used only as a backup in the event the substation power was not available. Also mentioned that we anticipate being able to use the 60 hertz power from the substation for our main plant operations in August as well, in which case we can use it in some limited capacity for potable water pumping, which is some nice security for us. In the meantime, we are committed to providing routine updates on the progress of frequency changer 1, as well as the other equipment following that. We continue our close coordination with our contractor to confirm that resources are being applied and those milestones are being met. And as we always do, we continue with the readiness of our existing pumping and power system. So as Steve and Ron spoke to, turbine 6 is now in service. We ran turbine 4 for several days last week, and we continue to perform maintenance on our other assets as needed. I think the last slide for us, just kind of summarizing most of what we've already talked about, asking folks to clear debris in front of their storm drains. We also encourage everyone to sign up for the NOLA Ready text alerts, which is how the Sturgeon Water Board submits our information out into the public through our partnership there, and also to follow us on social media. With that, that concludes our
Councilor Green for question.
Yes, especially for Mr. Spooner, because this was part of your presentation. I'd like you to explain return to service and why it seems that so much return to service happens during the hurricane season. When do you know that those pumps are going to be out, and could return to service be February so that we're prepared for the storm season? I think the public many times, well, I know the public sees those dates and says, why couldn't it have been done before then? So I'd appreciate your explanation of return to service.
Yes, sir. Now I'll ask Sarah to go back to that slide, and I'll ask also Steve to chime in. The return to service is really once the problem, do an inspection of a pump. If there's an issue relative to the inspection of a pump that requires repair, that repair would be, our facility maintenance shop would see what it would take to repair that pump, certain timeline, if it's a week or 2 days, or if it's, in some instances, if these are major repairs, bearings are considered major repairs, then we will list the anticipated date, estimated date return to service. So if the return to service is in 4 to 6 weeks, then we would put the return to service. So that's the estimated time at which we believe the repair would be completed based upon that specific asset.
Why couldn't the inspection take place in January, for example, and then they all be online by hurricane season?
Our personnel on site daily, our facility maintenance, our supervisors, and our pumping ops, they do have a checklist they go through on a daily and a weekly basis. If there's an indication of an issue greater than that checklist, then that's when they would bring in our facility maintenance, further investigation. And if the further investigation reveals that you need a major repair, then that's where we go. So long story short, we do inspect our pieces of equipment on a weekly basis with weekly checklists, and that's our routine SOP. I don't know if you have any comments, Steve?
Yeah, the only thing I might add is the bulk of these, with the exception of that pump at Station 1, are for equipment failures, which unfortunately we can't always control when that is, but we want to get to a place where we are doing exactly that, where we're doing inspections and then bringing pumps up to service before we get to hurricane season. But for things like the failure of the bearings at Station 4, that's something that I would ideally have that happen in October, November, but took place this spring, and so we're working to repair that as quickly as possible.
What took place in the spring, the inspection or the failure?
The failure.
It was related to some storm that we had, or just some inspection that was done, or just what?
We were running the pump during a rain event, noticed noise coming from the pump, inspected it, and found that the bearing needed to be replaced.
Look, I'm one who tells everybody, yes, of course they turned on the pumps, but if people ask, me questions when I go to meetings, and I'm asking you the questions that I hear. It just seems that there are 86 out of 93, but 7 of them will be online. So by the end of October, all 93 pumps will be online. But that's not necessarily the case, because you could find something in the meantime, right?
That's correct.
So this is based on response during rain events, for example, that took place in early spring, that you find the need to make these repairs and that they'll be repaired before the end of September.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure, that was not a trick question. The question that I get asked is, when will there ever be a time when all 93 pumps are working? And so I say that they go out from time to time based on certain events. But it looks a little bit challenging when people, for example, this will be held up to me at a next meeting saying, well, why are they all getting fixed during the hurricane season and not before?
Yeah, most of those repairs are related to equipment failures. If I could time the equipment failures, we'd absolutely have it not during hurricane season.
Right.
But I firmly understand the importance and the discomfort with having any pump out at any time. And that is the goal, is to have 93 of 93 up. Unless we are doing something like the pump at Station 1, which I mentioned earlier. We can control the outage, we're doing an inspection, we perform the work, and we do that quickly and
Okay.
efficiently.
I appreciate your communications to share that with the public, so keep that up. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further questions. Aaron, do we have any comments online? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all being here today. Just so the public is aware, after these presentations, the slide decks and the presentations shall be on the council utilities social media pages. So if you are joining us late or you didn't have opportunity to see this live, these slides themselves will be available for the public to review at their leisure. I'll also make sure they're posted on the council website so that it can be found as well. We will go in order. Aaron, whenever you're ready.
Councilmember, the next resolution is related to what you referenced earlier, the Emergency Communications Plan. The attached resolution just asks Entergy to submit an updated ECP by the end of August.
Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, the background for this is after Winter Storm Uri, the council's utility advisors submitted a report with recommendations for improvements to E&O's emergency communication protocols. After the May 25th load shed, while E&O submitted updates in light of the issues highlighted during the May 25th load shed, we realized that additional improvements and coordination are needed. The resolution directs E&O to coordinate with MISO to develop an improved communications plan and submit it to Curo and the advisors. I will move. A second. Second by Councilmember Green. Please vote your machines.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next one, Aaron.
Council members, the next resolution relates to the Energy Smart program for program years 16 through 18. Council members, for the last few years, we've been working to right-size the Energy Smart program. Entergy made its implementation plan compliance filing last month. This resolution gives parties involved in UD 2301 the opportunity to comment on ways to right-size before we go into program years 16 and 18.
Thank you, Aaron. For those who are watching, what this does is simply establish the procedural schedule for everybody to weigh in on their thoughts on the Energy Smart program for 16-18. That's what it does. Do we have any cards? All right, I'll move. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Green. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, next one, Aaron.
The next resolution is another procedural schedule. This relates to Chapter 158. Council members, you've been with me on this journey to update this code chapter that governs our utility regulatory proceedings. I want to give a special shout out to my team who really took the lead on this for the last year to create this draft document. And it's just that it's a draft document. We have a procedural schedule that gives parties about 60 days to look at it, redline it, and get their comments back to us.
Thank you. So as stated, this simply begins the process to allow for all interested parties to weigh in on the drafts. Chapter 158 has not received a wholesale rewrite in nearly 2 decades. Some of the proposed changes to highlight or allows for electronic submissions to the clerk, codifies changes to the Customer Bill of Rights recommended in the Customer Protections Docket, and establishes a resource manual to house rules governing IRP, community solar, RCPS, and other technical programs. Like I said, this begins the review of the draft and allows for public comment. I will move. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Green. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed. Next up, a motion.
Council members, this motion relates to an RFQ for administrative hearing officers. As you know, about every 5 years, we have to reissue our RFQs. This is just that routine reissuance.
Thank you. Our hearing officers preside over dockets and other regulatory proceedings. The last RFQ allowed hearing officers to serve for 5 years, which has since lapsed. This motion allows the council to issue a new RFQ. I will move. Second by Councilmember Green. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Last motion.
The last motion is another RFQ. This one is to monitor and track outages in our electric utility service.
All right. The RFQ will solicit responses for an outside consultant to track and analyze electronic service interruptions. I'll move. Second by Councilmember Green. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up, we have some Rule 57s. Councilman Thomas.
Yes, there's someone from the administration here. These are by request. The contracts, Mr. Torrey, if there aren't any questions from council members, we could move forward or we could ask questions.
I have some really quick questions just
Mr.
for
Torrey.
clarification.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes, I looked at these. I'm assuming all these contracts were done typical to our typical procurement process?
Yes, these were bid contracts, so
Okay.
low bid for emergency debris removal.
And these are not professional service, so they're low bid?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Move adoption.
Of A?
Second by Councilmember King. Vote your machine.
I think
Oh,
for
do we have to
clarification,
do them
we're doing
individually?
individually, right?
Can we do them collectively or one at a time?
You can do them collectively. You can do an in globo motion on motion to recommend approval for the Rule 57 contract.
Motion to recommend approval for Rule 57 per these contracts. Moved by me, second by Councilmember King. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you.
All right, with that, that clears our docket.
Mr. Chair, I pressed a button just to say one thing.
Okay.
I just wanted to commend Mr. Torrey and the Department of Sanitation. There's a lot that's been going on relative to illegal dumping, and it's not necessarily relevant totally for this agenda, but because you are here and we're talking about cleanups, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate it, and the federal government appreciates the fact that just last week, on Monday, we got a call regarding illegal dumping that took place in front of the main entrance to the post office off Dalman Road. It was cleaned up within 2.5 hours, and I know that your crews are in other places. So just want to recognize you and thank the crews for that work and for the work that's being done to crack down on some of this illegal dumping. Arrests and investigations as a result of the police work and also the sanitation department cleaning up afterwards. It has to be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the board is clear. Councilman Green moves to adjourn. I will second. Are there any opposed to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned. We will start the next meeting shortly. 5 minutes. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 30-minute break between meetings. Thank you.